Kaboom, baby!
Hello everybody, this is JoeSavy bringing you a Starcraft 2 Terran vs. Zerg matchup. My opponent is Clan J. Biden. Very nice. And his name is Falinus Gay. So, name aside, he is my Zerg opponent. I'm assuming it's a he with that kind of name. And the Joe Biden reference. But either way, back to the game. What I'm trying to show this game is basically the Widow Mine. The Widow Mine. And the new splash radius and how you can exploit that, hopefully. So let's go ahead and pick it up. I open with a standard 12-12 build, which is a standard Terran versus Zerg build, which basically is a 10 depot, 12 barracks, and then 12 refinery. Now I'm going to scout with this first SCV, so it will delay my refinery slightly, but not too bad. Okay, so we're going to poke out with that first SCV. We're getting 12 barracks, and then again on 12 supply, a refinery. Following this, we'll macro up to about 15 supply, then get an orbital command and 2 reapers. You don't obviously queue them up, but we'll see how it goes. Notice how I'm scouting the 4 corners of the map. You can shift queue that if you'd like. So right here, actually I've missed a worker, so it's something I typically don't do, but I do it sometimes out of mistake more than anything. Then you start your orbital, you get a reaper, and you get an SCV. You should be at about 16 supply right now, because the reaper would obviously take 1 supply. So go ahead and continuing to scout the map. I happen to scout his base after everything else. So the reaper will be queued up to, I believe, this watchtower, or after I see that there's no expansion. I'm assuming that this is the spawn location. So let's go ahead and go into my vision. So notice the second reaper is on queue, second depot, so we don't get supply capped, and we can continue to build SCVs. And don't forget to build a depot and that type of thing. Next move will be a command center. So first reaper out on the map. Let's see, where did I shift that up? I think I queue to the watchtower and then I run around and check the 2 towers just to see if there's anything. I'm going to wait for the second reaper before I poke in, because I want to be able to get some worker kills if possible. So notice a command center as I have the money. Floating a little bit of gas, but that's actually a good thing, because we want to get a factory and a reactor following this. So we're going to see it coming up right now. Sitting at 20 supply. Worker, trying to produce workers continuously. And then we'll follow this up with a factory. I don't know what that guy's doing. I think that was a misclick. Or I clicked on the mineral patch, my mistake. So factory, reactor at the same time, and then once the factory completes, we'll just swap them. There we go, and of course the wall's closed, so the SCV will just happen to run right here and just stand there like a tard. Okay, now we have a depot going down on the low ground. That will be to begin our wall. Poking up with the 2 reapers, trying to get at least 1 worker kill. Get 1, run away. You don't want to lose your reapers needlessly if you don't have to. This is a fairly safe spot, but the queen could have followed and killed it. The benefit is that there is a jump off cliff, so that helps. So notice floating more minerals because I didn't opt for the early starport, so I can go ahead and build another command center. So floating the barracks off, I'll float the factory onto the reactor now, starting a 3rd command center, a 3cc build, and then double Hellion production. Now this early depot is not necessary, but I prefer getting a slight supply lead so I don't get supply capped early on in the game sometimes. Especially if I'm doing a build that I don't typically do this specific way. So almost getting another worker, but the queen driving my reaper away, I didn't run a risk losing them yet. I still need the scouting information. So bunker going up on the low ground. I'll be floating the command center over momentarily, starting stem on my barracks, and I'll start producing Marauders. Now when opening without a starport, you need Marauders to help deal with any type of Roach pressure, and notice I scout the Roach Warren right now. The Marauders were preemptive, right? Because I'm not opening starport, so I don't have Banshees to deal out the DPS, so I'm getting a barracks with a tech lab to build Marauders, which do a fairly decent job of killing Roaches in small numbers and that type of thing. But either way, lone SCV just roaming around. I think he's going to build a depot. Yep, building a depot. Back in base, just still working on the stem and getting this command center done, and as soon as it's done we'll turn that into an orbital as well. I have about 200 gas, so the next move can really be anything. It all depends on what your move is. So I get a couple more workers. I think I'm up to 3 now, 3 worker kills. I'm going to get a 4th, and then I lose my Reapers. But not before getting a lot of scouting intel and seeing that my opponent is on Roach and he can't, by any way possible, any way imaginable, get enough Mutalists, or get Mutalists out early enough to punish me. So a purely ground army is sufficient to deal with this type of poke, especially Roach Ling or Roach Baneling. It can be difficult, so the next transition will be to mass Widow Mine production. Getting a 2nd and a 3rd barracks. I am playing bio this game, and double engineering bay. Now as soon as you build these engineering bays, you need to get lots of gas, or else you run out of gas very quickly. So notice I'm getting all 3 refineries at the same time. The next 3 refineries. I'll post at least the basic of the description, or the basic of the build order in the description. So notice, as soon as I scout Roaches, the Widow Mines, or at some point, a little bit after, you start building purely Widow Mines, because you need some type of DPS to help splash against your opponent. So poking up with the Hellions, I don't scout a 3rd, and then I check the next position. I should be checking the next position, and still do not scout a 3rd. So that's something that tells me, okay, so he doesn't have enough, or he doesn't have a 3rd, so he's probably going for an all-in. So I work on completing my my wall, continuing to build Marauders. I didn't build them continuously, but I did get enough to help me deal with any type of early pressure. And I'm getting turrets. Now these are preemptive. I haven't scouted a Spire anywhere, but the likely follow-up to a Roach opener, if he hasn't attacked by now, is Mutalists. This command center very dangerous. I probably shouldn't have dropped it there until I had enough to push out with it. But these Hellions will be there to spot. Not in the best spot, but I'll be moving them momentarily. Okay, so back home, getting a 2nd factory and a 2nd starport. Now again, this build specifically focuses on abusing the Widow Mine pressure. So we're sitting at 11 minutes, Mutas are out in the field, we have Lings, we have Roaches coming out of base. What do? Alright, so we're going to take these Widow Mines, we're going to try to spread them around. Not way out, like on the back here or anything. Get them up front. We need to try to close the wall, so one Widow Mine goes off, kills a bunch of Lings. Next Widow Mine goes off, kills most of the rest of the Lings. And then mass repair the bunker, because we don't want the Roaches to kill us. But the Marauders will do fair amounts of damage to the Roaches. So that's something to keep in mind. Slipping on macro in the base a little bit, trying to deal with this pressure, because if he breaks me right now, I lose. I thought they were repairing, but for some reason they didn't. So now I have at least a decent bioforce, and I can mass repair my bunker. Probably should have put the Marines inside the bunker as well. Overall sloppy on my part, but this was a stupid push on his part as well. The Widow Mines, especially now with their new splash, are really strong. So he's continuing to push. I get 2 more Widow Mines out. Let's see, what are we up to? We're up to about 8 Widow Mines. And of course I have bio and 3 turrets in my main, 4 turrets in my main, so the Mutas can't do anything in my main base except for maybe pick off tech structures. But even still, it's a risk for him because I could have sunk a couple Widow Mines in my main. So we're sitting at about 13 minutes, supplies are 83 to 90, which if I were going for a 14-minute max, you know, obviously I'd be way behind. But because I did this different type of build and I delayed my 3rd base in favor of getting those Hellions out early and tried to put pressure, I can't really do that. And I'm trying to play safe, so my command center isn't really mining yet, and these rocks make things a little bit harder too. So we're going to pick it up to 2x, continuing to build Marines and Marauders. Now the Marauders will help deal with the Roaches, and the Marines will obviously help deal with the Mutas. So poking down, I don't want to overcommit, and I don't want to get too close. So hopefully, what I'm hoping for is that they run into the Widow Mines. Okay, so late medevacs. I can't really drop. I can't really put pressure. I'm floating some minerals, so I need to build some barracks. Have a couple on the way. Make sure to get reactors and/or tech labs on each one, on each barracks, and try to get at least one turret in each mineral line. So that's going to help your movements, and you know, it's going to help your overall game because you're not forced to stretch your units out in 1,000 different directions. Okay, so the roaches come up. They will get some widow mine kills, but now it's just too many widow mines for him to deal with, and too much bio. Roaches don't do well against, you know, large amounts of bio, especially when they're nearly 2-2. See the upgrades, nearly 2-2. Notice the widow mine count. Now before the buff, this really would not be considered a viable build because of the splash radius. But now that the splash is a solid 1.75, is what I believe it is. 1.75, yeah. Non-adjusting. It is a very relevant build again, as it was when Heart of the Swarm first came out. Now, I played Biomine before even, or even after they nerfed the Widow Mine, but now it makes it even that much stronger. So I'm going to go into Everyone Vision. We're just going to see how this works out. I have to apologize. I did some horrible micro on this dropship thing, but the Widow Mine's going to come out and they're going to deal with a bunch of Widow Mine splash damage. So what I should have done is just stopped and dropped off all my units, but I misclicked and lost an entire medevac, and then I didn't drop this one either. Then finally, when I realized my mistake, it was too late and I lost everything. But back home, floating minerals, mostly because I didn't have enough production. So notice I have everything queued up, and I should probably have this on a hotkey too, which I don't think I do. There we go. Now we do. So we're getting lots and lots of Widow Mines out. Lots and lots of Widow Mines. You see that? Oh man. Oh. I don't think he understood the right way to deal with Widow Mines, and that was not it. Either way, he lost pretty much his entire army just running into the mines, okay? So very difficult to deal with. And that's pretty much the game, so we'll go back through the early part of the build order right after we finish. So basically he's saying mass Widow Mines equal win game. Yeah, I think he's right. Unless he were to go for like a Hydralist type build, where the Hydras actually outrange the mines. So go ahead and burrow the mines, and then you can't really deal with any of that stuff. Okay, so let's jump back to the beginning of the game. Not the very beginning, but up to this point. Okay, so we're going to jump back to this point in the game where the Hellions are basically out here and the Marauders are meant to deal with any kind of roach pressure. And pick it up to 4x. So you notice the next transition would be double barracks. Now I could have just as easily gone double factory and double one engineering bay and double armory. Gas-wise, I would have been starved, so I would have had to start with one armory, because as you can see, I only have 300 gas. But these refineries would still be around the same time, or would be built around the same time, and I still have my third command center to go ahead and expand when I'm ready. The reason I went for bio was because I wanted to test out Widow Mines and how well they worked against Zerg, and obviously, you know, they work really, really well. So we're going to go ahead and watch the rest of the build order. So all these gases, for anybody who's wondering, gases produce about 114, or each refinery produces about 114 gas per minute when fully saturated. Each worker is about 30 something, 39 I guess. 38. Okay, so back at home, getting double reactors on the next barracks, starting my 1-1 upgrades, getting turrets in the main because it's very, very important. You don't want to die to Mutalists, or you don't want Mutas to come in and you'd be completely unprepared, especially opening with Hellions, because you don't have a lot of anti-air to deal with them. Okay, so a lot of workers at my natural, but that's intentional at this point because I didn't want to move them out here, out of a position where I could defend them. I really just don't have enough army to defend against anything in the open field. So that's the biggest reason why I'm doing this. But the Widow Mines do their job, and they scare the Mutas away. And that's probably the best part about that. Okay, so let's pick it up a little bit until we start doing more stuff in our main. There we go. Okay, so we're at about 12 minutes after we deal with all the all-any stuff. We start our 2-2 upgrades. We get another barracks, which I probably should have gotten 3 more, honestly, and just delayed production slightly. 3 or 4 even. I mean, you really want 10 or 12 barracks at the end, especially when you're floating minerals and you're just trying to put that pressure on. And it's even more important when your opponent fails an all-in, because now they're way behind. I mean, a Zerg on 2 bases versus a Terran who just took his 3rd, or has his 3rd and really is about to fully saturate it, is pretty difficult to deal with. So just keep that in mind. So getting depots, all that other good stuff. And that's pretty much the build. I mean, that's really all that matters, and the rest is up to you how you deal with it. But yeah, essentially we're just abusing Widow Mines and their sheer raw power. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment in the section below, like and subscribe, and as always, leave suggestions on how I can improve my videos. Alright, have a good one.